Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we're going to take a look at the Mercury Retrograde and Capricorn energies that close out 2022 and begin 2023. And this retrograde has a lot of activity in it, a lot of connections that Mercury and Capricorn will be making to other planets and points. So we'll be reviewing and discussing all of that, including some themes to be aware of, what it's good to have a heads up about, because keep in mind that this Mercury retrograde is also the ruler of Mars retrograde in Gemini. And so there is a super retrograde energy going on here as we begin 2023. And this can surely show up as even more delays, setbacks, changes, uncertainties, all those things that tend to happen during retrograde phases. Now it's even more potent and you could be feeling it in an even bigger way. But as always, there is wisdom and meaning in these cycles. The universe has a plan and a purpose with these energies, and so it's up to us to keep trusting it while remaining in our power and our strength, and also honoring what is changing and shifting. And this is where you can tap into your belief systems around retrogrades, around what is unfolding, and look at how you're really digging into the best is playing out now. This is happening for a good reason. There is a beautiful purpose in these changes and these shifts. There are things here that are unfolding that I didn't plan, that I didn't expect, but I trust it's going to line up. I'm not going to be so attached. And that's a good thing to monitor in yourself during these powerful retrogrades, is to look at what are you attached to and where can you detach from a particular outcome or expectation, knowing that it will change and that it will probably land in a whole new place. Now, this particular Mercury retrograde in Capricorn stays in the sign of Capricorn. So it's traveling between 24 degrees back to 8 degrees in your chart. So this would be the place to locate in your natal astrology chart where you have 8 to 24 degrees of Capricorn, as this is the area of life that you will be revisiting, reprioritizing, and restructuring. And identifying that can give you a heads up on what to expect, or more accurately, where to remain open in this part of your world where you're not too invested in one thing playing out a certain way, knowing that people are going to change their minds. There's also a theme here of hearing no, getting feedback that no, that's not going to work, or receiving some kind of message that this isn't for me anymore, or I'm not able to follow through on this. I can't commit to this. I've got too much on my plate. This could be a time when we are being more discerning in our energies, in what we say yes to. And by reevaluating that part of ourselves and that part of our lives, you're going to also have clarity on what is a no. What is a no thank you? I'm going to pass. It's not the right time. So that is a strong theme here with the Capricorn energies. And that's because Capricorn is a sign of realistic assessment, of basically condensing down everything that we said yes to in Sagittarius season. So Sagittarius energy is very open and expansive. Let's do all the things. Let's put all the charges on the credit card bill. Let's eat all the food. Sagittarius is the energy of going big. Then we move into Capricorn season, and by the brilliance of the universe, we say, okay, wait, no, I can't do that anymore. No, I don't want to keep this going. And even the realizations that come up around what you previously said yes to. This is a Mercury retrograde where you could backtrack. You could change your mind and say, okay, I can't take that on anymore. And I realized I overspent. And wow, that was too much for me. And now I need to cut back. And Capricorn is the energy of cutting back, conserving, doing less in order to focus and concentrate. And so there's going to be an emphasis here on the cutting back. And this could even be something you're feeling if you do a New Year's resolutions, a New Year intention, or if you are looking at your lifestyle as we begin 2023, you could have this sense of, I am ready to make some changes. And what I'm understanding about my own patterns, habits, and routines is that I need to look at what's healthy for my energy. What really keeps me in prime, optimal shape energetically, and what has become too much, what is too daunting or too overwhelming. And this is where the strength of Capricorn shows up, because Capricorn wants us to be on track, wants us to think long term, wants us to truly honor the power of our energy. Again, going back to focus, concentration, really looking at the facts and the details. So you could even look back on the last year and assess what worked really well for me. What did I really enjoy? What was something that I put energy into and it paid off? What new habits did I start? Or what did I change or do differently at work or on the job or in my family? What did I shift that I want to keep putting energy into versus where in my life do I just have too much? Where is it necessary now to be clearer and even stricter with myself? And that's one thing that this Mercury in Capricorn retrograde could bring up, is where you need to establish new boundaries, where you need to establish some new rules for yourself, a new sense of this is how it's going to be in my world because this is what is best for my energy. And during a retrograde phase, we have opportunities to look at that, to look at how that shows up, how that plays out, perhaps to do a test drive. Let me experiment with this. Let me try this and just see where it goes or see what happens. And then I'll have more information to make a better, more informed decision. So this is going to be a time where we are restructuring, revisiting, replanning, and a lot of things could feel up in the air. Almost like there's a sense of, well, things aren't really certain or clear, but I can sense that that's okay because that's part of what the retrograde gifts us with. It gives us with time to work things through, time to just go easier on ourselves, to detach, step back, and look at what is really true for you right now and how can you keep your energy open. Now, because Capricorn is about being very focused and even to the point of not seeing the good stuff, not seeing the good news, wanting things to be in a certain way, this could be a retrograde where you're able to reflect and perhaps self-assess what is best for you at this time. Meaning you're understanding your life, your energy, your world even more, and operating from that place, meaning understanding how are probably ready to make some bigger changes in your life. And that is part of Capricorn's energy. It's that restructuring of what we do in a day, how we show up in our world, in our life. And you could have learned a lot, especially in the past year. You could have come to understand what no longer is needed. And I feel like with these changes and the shifts that are happening, especially throughout January, it is important to go into your own energy, sit with it, and truly listen, truly reflect, truly be in that space of what is for my best and highest good. And am I willing to make a commitment to that part of myself? Am I willing to truly honor what I know is true for me right now and to let that be a guiding force? Mercury in Capricorn connects us to the bigger milestone questions, the bigger things to truly and deeply ponder, to understand that you are the creator of your life. You are the one who is building, developing, and growing your energy in this lifetime, in these energies. So what is right for you right now? What is truly best for you? And are you willing to step into that in a solid way, in a confident way, so that it strengthens you? I'm feeling too that there is an opportunity here to connect even more with your own light, your own energy at a very pure level, and to really strengthen it, to really solidify what you've come to understand is necessary for you to live a good life. And that could look different than even 6 months ago, 2 years ago, 8 years ago. There could be a sense of renewal with this Mercury retrograde. And that's one of the strong energies here, is that we are renewing ourselves. We're really looking at what is meaningful, what's necessary, and then making commitments to ourselves to live from that place. This Mercury retrograde covers the territory in your chart where we had the very powerful Saturn-Pluto conjunction at 22 degrees and 23 degrees of Capricorn back in January 2020. And as we know, that's when the world changed permanently. That's when things shifted in a dramatic way for all of us at a collective level, but it also brought the energy into our individual spaces to sit with our lives, to sit with what we're choosing in our lives. It's a bit like when you get off the treadmill or the expectations or wherever you have sourced your energy from, meaning, we get on these tracks, right? Where we're like, okay, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to have a family. I'm going to buy a house. Whatever that programming is, we can be on a one-track experience that might have disconnected you from what you really want in life, what is really true for you. And so now we have an opportunity, especially since 2020, as these energies have played out, to return to ourselves, to return to our own authority, to return to our own decision-making abilities, and to look at where you are ready to activate and move in your life that is truer for you, that really is about your best possible life that maybe you never even considered before. You never even thought it was possible, but as the world has changed, so have we. Now, I also have the vision, if you will, or the energetic perspective that we are the ones changing the world, that as we have removed more of our density, we've done our healing work, our trauma work, we've gone more into ourselves, we've gone through our dark nights of the soul. And you've heard me mention before how many of us have a punch card of dark nights of the soul. Like you don't have one, you have 9 dark nights of the soul, and then you get the 10th one free. And it's sort of like we've been doing all this work, we've been changing the planet. Our energy has shifted. Our collective light, our collective output of energy is what is also shaping and reforming the world at large. And that's part of what is coming up through the global experiences right now, is that we are drastically shifting and changing. We are getting into more of our power, operating and living from more of our light. And that energy is being emitted from us, creating these powerful ripple effects that are shifting what we see, experience, and feel on the planet. And so for all the ways we can say, oh, well, these changes are happening outside of me, the truth is they're also happening within you at a very deep level of your being, and it's having a drastic ripple effect on the global energy. And so now is a beautiful time to ask yourself, what do I want to do with my light, with my energy? What are my dreams now? What do I want to build for myself? And check in with yourself intentionally, especially in January 2023, when the energies are a bit slower, when the energies are calling us inward, as Capricorn season is often a time of going inward, of looking at what is happening within your physical structure, within your physical energy field, and being very truthful with yourself. Now, Mercury in Capricorn can also show you where you're disappointed, where things didn't happen, they didn't play out, or you had invested, or you thought this would show up for you, or where you didn't get the job, or you didn't get the thing, or something else didn't come through. And so there's also this part of our lives that we realistically assess, well, is this true for me still? Do I still want this? But more importantly, am I still believing that the universe is supporting me? Am I still believing that even though this thing didn't happen, something better is on the way, something new is coming through? And keep in mind, we've been talking about how Jupiter is in Aries now, starting a whole 12-year cycle, a brand new 12-year cycle that initiates new energies. And so we're really getting this supportive push from the universe to move into more of our authentic self and to know that whatever energetically matches you will show up. And that's part of universal law. That's part of how these energies work. That when energies of the same vibration and frequency are a match, they do gravitate towards each other. They do come together. And when they're not a match, they separate, right? They move away. It's not a long-term fit, or it's not a fit at this time. So the energies are always powerful, and it's how we are actively working with them that we are really demonstrating our mastery and living from that place within ourselves. This can also be an important time as you get on track with more of your authentic energy and who you are now, to learn from the past. And that is something that Capricorn does look at. It looks back on experiences. It looks back on things that didn't work, that failed, perceived to fail. Again, the disappointments or the things that didn't show up or come through. And earlier this year, I was on a plane and had picked up one of those airline magazines that they have in the back pocket. And I came across this interesting article about the power of regret. And this is in fact a book, and it's a book by an author named Daniel Pink. And it is about why regret moves us forward. It's literally called The Power of Regret, How Looking Backward Moves Us Forward. And he has compiled regrets into 4 major categories. Foundation regrets, which is where we didn't do something. Like, if only I had done this, if only I had been more responsible, if only I had, invested in this way. So some kind of foundation regrets, he calls it. Boldness regrets is a second category. And this is where we didn't take the action. We weren't bold enough. Oh, I should have done this. Oh, I should have reached out to them. Oh, I should have said this. Where we didn't basically stand in our power and assert ourselves or do something that probably was really scary at the time, right? It really gave you a lot of anxiety. Oh no. And maybe it was easy to let it go and be like, okay, never mind, I'm not going to do the thing. But he's saying boldness regrets have been something that people will look back on and wish they had tried, wish they had taken the risk. Then he identifies moral regrets, which is when we take the low road, which is when we aren't in our higher wisdom, when we kind of get involved in things that we don't really wish we had done. So it's about checking in with your moral compass and wishing, yeah, I could have been a better person in that situation. I could have been stronger. I could have perhaps even looked at what you could have done right. And maybe you only see that in hindsight, but that's a moral regret. And then the biggest category of regrets are connection regrets. When we aren't putting in energy for others, when we're not making it right. He said this is the biggest regrets that we have in our lives, these connection regrets that showcase, I feel this directly in the heart, even in the throat chakra. It could have been a part of yourself that was afraid to connect or afraid to open up, afraid to perhaps do something that felt very vulnerable. And he goes into what that looks like, but that is the biggest category of regrets for people, is that they wish they had perhaps invested or done more to develop and deepen these types of connections with others. And I wanted to bring this up because this is where we learn about ourselves, our lives, our next steps. We learn to be better from our own experiences. We learn what doesn't work for us. We learn where we were out of alignment with our higher energy, whatever that means to you. And during Capricorn season, as you reflect back, look at how far you've come, look at where you've been, there can be things that come up that show you what you wish you had done better, or what you wish you had tried, or where you wish you had been more in your power. And this Mercury retrograde, coupled with Mars retrograde, is about a realignment within yourself of what you know is true for you, but also a recommitment to how you want to live your life with less regrets or less of a disconnection from your truth, right? Less of a sense of, well, I should do it this way, or this is what everyone else is doing, or never mind, it's not a big deal. It's almost like we have been overly programmed perhaps to disconnect from our heart or our true needs, to step back from anything that feels too personal or too messy or too vulnerable. And so part of what we have to remember is that in the wholeness of our energy, we are all of this. We are all the masculine energies and all the feminine energies. And when we live from that space within ourselves, it opens us up to the truth of who we are and shows us where we're ready to venture forward into these parts of ourselves and live from that space. And I feel like this Mercury retrograde is significant for identifying what you're ready to change. And Capricorn is a cardinal sign, and it's about an initiation. It's about beginnings. It's about doing something better than you've done it before because you've learned from experience. You're aware of, oh, I know how that plays out. But what we're stepping into is understanding how we can be transformed. We can be rebirthed. We can rise up into a new powerful place in ourselves that maybe only you know about, but it's based on that internal decision making that you have been through. And so that is another energy very strongly here during this Mercury and Capricorn retrograde, is looking at what decisions you are ready to make to yourself that are really true for you and that really honor how you want to live your life, honor what is meaningful, what is valuable to you, and ideally to reduce any of those regrets or any of those things in your life that you didn't try, you didn't go for, you didn't experience. Once Mars goes direct on January 12th, at 8 degrees of Gemini, and then Mercury goes direct on January 19th at 8 degrees of Capricorn, there could be a sense by the end of January that you're on a clearer track, that you've looked at what you want to course correct, that you're ready to do something in a new way, in a different way, that you're really aware of what hasn't worked for you and that there's got to be a new solution. There's got to be a new path, a new direction. And that's what you could find yourself in higher alignment with going forward. So this Mercury retrograde that is in effect here as we begin a new calendar year could feel quite slow at times. Again, you could get no's. You could be surprised by how some people like change their mind or give you new information you weren't aware of, or perhaps there's a sense of what you said yes to previously, you're realizing you don't have the energy or desire for it anymore. So there's always changes that happen with Mercury retrograde, changes in details, changes in plans, changes in information, changes in what you thought you could rely on. So during every Mercury retrograde, we are invited to stay open to, okay, this is going to change. Someone's going to cancel. Something isn't going to happen. It's fine. It's good. It's just the universe doing its thing. It's this energy in motion that I don't have control over, but I do have control over me, my own decision making, my own energetic process, and what I want to continue to believe during all these changes. And so this Mercury has an active period as it will interact with the Sun in Capricorn. It will trine the North Node in Taurus, square Chiron in Aries, trine Uranus in Taurus, and sextile Neptune in Pisces. So this is going to be a Mercury retrograde where it could feel like there's a lot more going on. There's a lot more up in the air. There's a lot more shifting and moving around, and you're really perhaps needing more time to sit with everything before making a decision. If you can hold off on any exact or solid decision making until later in January, even early February, that could be a great way to work with this energy. I know that isn't always the case. That isn't always how life works. There's things that require your attention today, or there's a deadline tomorrow, in which case it's about staying open. But this is a very active Mercury retrograde where it could feel like there's a lot of moving pieces. So looking at all of these transiting energies, I'm going to start by looking at Mercury retrograde conjunct the sun, which will happen at 16 and 17 degrees of Capricorn, January 7th and 8th. Now, the sun is the biggest light in our solar system, and Mercury is the messenger. And so when Mercury has this conjunction to the sun, think of the power, light, and consciousness of the sun delivering and embedding this new energy into Mercury. So Mercury retrograde brings a story, information, or a message back to the sun, and then the sun infuses Mercury with more knowledge, more understanding for Mercury to sit with and contemplate. And this is also when the solar consciousness of the sun is really shining on what's been going on within Mercury. So it shines a light on the information, on the story, on the narrative. And because it shines a light, there can be revelations. There can be more information coming out. It can be a time when there is more being pronounced or declared. But because Mercury is retrograde, that's when people can misspeak and they can say the wrong thing, or they miss out on an important part of the story. So that energy is the strongest January 7th and 8th. And I also see it as Mercury is being recharged by the sun. It's receiving new downloads, new information, and it's also receiving this revitalization of energy from the sun. Now, we're also going to have Mercury trining the North Node at 11 degrees of Taurus and trining Uranus at 15 degrees of Taurus. So Capricorn trining Taurus energies really helps us understand what we're building, really getting clear on where is this going? What do I need in place? Taurus is about our resources. What do I have to pay to get this off the ground? What's my investment? How much does this cost? Is it worth it? Do I want this? Do I want this for the long term? There's often something about our physical world that is illuminated when we have strong earth energies. And with the trine here to both the North Node and Uranus and Taurus, there's a sense of things are coming together, even if it's behind the scenes, even if you don't see it just yet. It's kind of being revamped, restructured, the details are being reworked, and then the energy is really the strongest once Mercury is direct in Capricorn and makes its third and final square to the North Node in Taurus and to the North Node in Uranus. So this is an energy that can give us a sense of purpose. Okay, this is going to give you a sense of, yes, I'm doing this right. It is working. It is coming together. Even though it might feel a little bit wild and uncertain, there's something positive here when this Mercury in Capricorn is working directly with the North Node and Uranus. And so let me give you some dates for each of those, because I know some of you really like these dates. So Mercury in Capricorn trined the North Node at 11 degrees first on December 15th, then will trine the North Node again at 9 degrees and 8 degrees January 14th to January 24th. So this is lovely, really, because as Mercury stations direct January 19th, it's in a trine to the North Node for about 10 days. And so this is when, again, there could be something solid really coming together. This could be about evidence, proof, documentation, things you've been working on, they're really coming through and you can see them. So this is a great energy, in fact, for this Mercury retrograde. Again, that's January 14th to the 24th when it's trining the North Node. Then it's trining Uranus at 15 degrees of Taurus, first December 18th, then again January 9th, and January 30th to 31st. And this energy is strong because of how Uranus is also stationing direct in January. And so we're going to have Mars station direct, Mercury station direct, Uranus station direct, all in January, and then all planets are direct until April. So this is going to be a month. January is a month when we're really getting things figured out, when we're really looking at the changes we need to make, what matters to us now, what we need to let go of, what is no longer important, so that we have room in our lives for our truer priorities. Now, the other transit that this Mercury retrograde in Capricorn will be making is to a square from Chiron in Aries, and this is at 12 degrees, and that's because of how Chiron stationed direct December 23rd and is moving very slowly in January. So the first square that Mercury made to Chiron was December 16th. Then again, it'll happen on January 11th, and then also January 27th and 28th, all at 12 degrees. And so this is where something can come up that you don't like. You get some information or news that you don't want to hear. There could be something here that, it hurts, or you just need time to sit with it before responding. There could also be something here that is maturing you, that you're being asked to just take a more detached perspective. It's not personal. It's not about you, even though it feels that way. This is where you can say, okay, this is just what's happening. This is how it's playing out. This is what's been decided. We are understanding too, as we move through Capricorn season, that it's not personal. And so regulate that emotional response as needed, as necessary. And it can also bring up your sensitivities. It can bring up some things that just don't feel good. So keep that in mind, that the square to Chiron in Aries can be one that just kind of sinks your energy for a bit. But basically in the background, there's a lot more positive energy working with us. And that's because of the trines to the planets in Taurus, as well as the support that we're receiving from the sun in Capricorn, as well as the sextile to Neptune in Pisces. Now, this energy also happens 3 times. Neptune in Pisces is at 22 degrees, and Mercury retrograde will interact with it 3 times. The first time was December 22nd, then again January 2nd and 3rd, and then the final interaction is February 6th. And so because with every Mercury retrograde, we typically have 3 interactions with planets, we are moving through an interesting phase here in January. Now, really quick, the sextile to Neptune in Pisces is often one of letting something go and just feeling, hey, I'm not going to worry about that. I don't have to manage that. I'm just going to hand it off. I'm not going to become overly consumed in that. So there's something about the sextile to Neptune and Pisces that wants to alleviate you of burdens, that wants you to just not care too much or not be too strict, either with yourself or with others. So what I'm seeing here in the pattern of the energy is that especially the first 3 weeks of January, there could be things that you're giving yourself time to figure out, to work out, to sit with, to reconsider. And Capricorn doesn't want to be rushed. The sun is also in Capricorn, and there's this energy here of just take the time you need to plan it out properly. And this is where, again, when you're that open, in a sense, when you're willing to take your time and work with things, then you can have new solutions show up. And so it could be a little crunchy. It could be a little bit frustrating. You could be like, oh, why isn't this coming together? But by the end of the month, the end of January, the energies really start to flow more. They start to even out, they start to open up, and then the solutions appear, and then things start to click. So just give yourself a bit of a break here as we move into January. Don't overly apply pressure. Don't think you have to have it all known, because chances are you won't. We don't know it all when Mercury is retrograde. It's not till after Mercury clears his shadow on February 8th that we'll have a better sense of what is designed to go the distance, of even what feels more solid and strong. So this is going to be a very active Mercury retrograde in Capricorn. And again, it's working with the part of your chart that has already had a lot of energy in it since 2020. And so there could be things that maybe you've been thinking about or planning as the world has changed, that you're understanding, this is really important to me. I really do want this in my life. I really do want to move into this next chapter or this next experience. I really do want to manifest this next part of my reality or this new dream. And I feel like with Mercury retrograde in an earth sign especially, it helps us get into alignment with what we want to manifest next. And so look at that too as a gift from the universe, that here we are in these energies of renewal, recommitment, reevaluating, reprioritizing, and understanding what does matter in the whole timeline of our lives. And that is a very Capricorn theme. It's looking at the whole span of your life and understanding what is on my bucket list. What do I still want in my world? What do I want to put energy towards? And this is where new dreams can show up, new intentions, new endeavors. And so this could be a beautiful time to stay open to what spirit is sharing with you, what you're feeling or sensing intuitively, and maybe even how you want to live life in a different way. And just going back to that book about the power of regrets, it's looking back on your life and looking at, well, what do I want to try differently? And what matters to me? What have I learned through my own life experiences that reveals to me more of my values, more of my dreams, more of who I am, and how to live from that space? So I hope that this has given you some good insights into the themes and energies of this particular Mercury retrograde. It's also interesting to note that last year, 2022, also began with a Mercury retrograde in Capricorn. And it is a slow down energy, at least that's what it can feel like, but it's then designed to keep us on track with who we really are, to really honor our authenticity, to not be locked into societal conditioning or expectations or even the pressure that we have felt from others in our lives. Capricorn is about people we look up to, people we go to for advice. They have more experience. They're mentors. They've lived more life, or they've done things you haven't done. And so we turn to those individuals for guidance. And part of what we're learning is that, yes, we want to hear what other people have learned, what their experiences have taught them, what they've been through in the real world and what they've learned, on the job and in life. But then we have our own authority to bring that energy inside of us and to discern, is that true for me? Is that applicable to my life and my world? And then that's where we make our very powerful decisions, as well as our commitments to how we want to show up in the world. So thank you so much for joining me as we go through the energies of this Mercury retrograde. I will keep discussing this topic in the Wednesday podcast. That's the podcast where I look at the weekly energies. And then we'll continue on with these Monday podcasts, which are about a particular theme or topic. So thank you so much for joining me this year. I just wanted to give you a very big gratitude message for connecting with me and joining me on this world of astrology. It has been something that has interested me since I was a teenager, and it still surprises me that I do this professionally. It's actually a better dream job than I could have ever expected. And I'm just so delighted that so many people are interested in astrology now, that we are on these same energy frequencies. We share this interest, and it's truly a joy and a pleasure to connect with you in this way. I hope to continue to be of service to you and support you as we move into the energies, the very big energies of 2023, and we really move into some new parts of ourselves. But in the world of the cosmos, it's right on time, it's divinely guided, all is well, and we're just in for a big wild ride in this lifetime. We all raised our hands and said, I want to be there. I want to be in a human body to move through these big things. And here we are doing it together. So wishing you a happy new year and a beautiful start to 2023, whatever that might mean to you. And be sure and check out that 2023 Soul Growth Astrology program I created for you that gives you a heads up on what's going on in this year. It's the biggest astrology since 2020, and it's going to be a lot, but we're going to go through it together, and we're doing this big, powerful energy work together. You can find out more about me over at mollymccord.online. I'm also on YouTube, where you will find a ton of astrology playlists to check out to help you understand more about your own chart. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and I just joined TikTok, the last person on the planet to join TikTok. So thank you so much. Have a beautiful holiday season, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.